Mysterious objects in the sky. If you've ever heard of UFOs, you've probably imagined alien spaceships from somewhere in the universe flying in Earth's sky. But the term UFO refers to any unidentified flying object, which means it's anything in the air we haven't yet explained. Let's look at UFOs and what may be behind some of the mysterious things people see in the sky. Interest in UFOs really took off in the United States around 80 years ago. In the summer of 1947, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold was out for a flight near Mount Rainier in Washington state when he saw a string of bright lights in the sky. These lights were flying in a V pattern, and they accelerated and wove through the air in a way no airplane could. Studying his navigational equipment, Arnold determined these lights were likely flying at around 1,700 miles per hour, far faster than any known plane. Arnold followed these aerial objects for as long as he could before he had to turn back to refuel. When he told his story to the newspaper reporters, he compared their movements to saucers or plates skipping over water. From this, the term flying saucer was coined. What did Arnold see? To this day, we don't know, but news of his sighting spread rapidly across the country. Soon, many Americans began to call emergency phone lines and government offices to report seeing unknown lights or objects in the sky. Some people were delighted by their sightings, and some were anxious, but all believed they were seeing spaceships. The government was concerned enough that it eventually formed a group named Project Blue Book in 1952 to study data from the sightings of UFOs. Some UFO sightings were found to be hoaxes or complicated tricks people played on others. In some of these hoaxes, people created fake photographs of what they claimed was a UFO by building a small flying saucer and then cutting and pasting it into a photograph of the sky. The photographers then sold these photographs to newspapers eager for UFO news. In other hoaxes, people built crashed UFOs out of metal, computer parts, and glowing chemical goo, telling friends and neighbors that a spaceship had fallen to Earth. But what about other sightings? Some of these turned out to not be UFOs, but large floating weather balloons or unfamiliar-looking military planes. As for other objects or lights in the sky, meteorologists and astronomers have given a number of probable explanations. Lenticular or lens-shaped clouds can look just like flying saucers. Additionally, some meteors, rocks from elsewhere in the solar system, occasionally fall through Earth's air, burning up and leaving clouds of glowing or burning gas behind. These clouds resemble floating lights. Another common explanation for floating lights or objects is an optical illusion called a fata morgana. During a fata morgana, light passing through the warm and cold air layers can bend and make a faraway object or light source appear to float or race through the air. Hundreds of years ago, sailors saw fata morgana illusions and were convinced that ships were floating through the air toward them. The sailors believed they were seeing ghosts, just as people today often believe similar illusions are UFOs. Some scientists now believe a fata morgana is what Arnold saw, light from the snowy mountains around him seeming to float through the air. Between 1952 and 1969, Project Blue Book examined more than 12,000 UFO sightings. Of these, they concluded that more than 90% were either hoaxes, government planes, meteorological occurrences, or astronomical events. The remaining 700 of these reported sightings were still mysterious. In June 2021, the U.S. government released a report that does away with the term UFO, instead referring to flying objects as Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, UAP. The report also included results from a Navy task force that reviewed 144 UAP sightings between 2024 and 2021. Though the group ultimately could not explain the sightings, they claim there's no evidence that points to them being sent by beings from outer space. Perhaps future scientists will examine these cases and come up with explanations. For now, as long as there are still curious observers out there, we'll probably hear news and reports of UFOs or UAPs for years to come.